So you guys have been together since you were 15 and 16, correct?
Yes.
Yes, I was 15, he was 16.
And you married right out of college, and that's definitely unheard of nowadays. So with so many years together and knowing what you know now about marriage and personal growth, would you guys advise other couples to get married at such a young age as you did? You were how old, 22 and 23?
Mhm.
Yes, yes.
For myself, I would say do what's best for them. I wouldn't change it. I mean, I know at 16, I met my wife. I knew that she was going to be mine. So, when you know you want something and you know things are right, why wait? I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. Do the joys of having kids, and I think on my vision board at that age was I wanted a house with a picket fence, 2 kids, a dog, and a frisbee. You know what I mean? And that was my thing. And at age 25, 26, we had 2 kids, a dog, a frisbee, and a house we didn't have a picket fence, but we had a house.
A regular fence.
A regular fence, but that's what we wanted. So for myself, I'd be like, you do what feels good to you, but don't do it based off what anybody else says. Don't say like, oh no, you got to wait till you're older, or do it now. Do what's comfortable and best for you, but don't be scared, because you never want to lose the best thing that could happen to you. You never want to lose that woman that you know is the one, or that man that you know is the one. Do what's best for you.
For me, I agree wholeheartedly with what he just said. But I also do think that it's important if an individual finds necessary to sow their oats, in the sense of accumulating experiences and getting to know different types of people, so that you know what works for you. My oldest daughter is 20 right now, and she's dating. And my advice to her is date a lot of different boys.
That does not mean sex.
It does not mean have sex with them.
Of course.
Yes, my daughter is a bit of a prude, but talk to different people, go out with different people, experience different people. This way you'll have the discernment to understand what really works for you long term, because you can be with someone right now and it work, and you might waste 2 years with somebody that you realize there are things about their personality that didn't click or that were off-putting for you. You want to find your own uniqueness with someone. You want to find your own magic. But once you do, and you know that it's right, then you stick a pin in that and you lock it down.
How do you guys feel that your childhood examples of marriage or lack thereof shaped the way that you guys showed up in your own marriage? From what I read in the book, you guys, you had good relationship with your parents, but you guys saw sort of 2 different types of relationships. So what did you feel that you wanted to take from your family and model that, and what did you feel like you needed to do better?
For me, my parents are still together. I think they've been married like 70 years for all I know. I mean,
it's like
they've been together for so long.
Maybe 40 years.
But with their relationship, it's like anything in life that you want to do.
No, maybe 50 years.
Maybe 50 years, right? Yeah. You take everything in life, you take what you like, you take the good things that you like and the bad things that you don't, you take out. So my parents been together so long, and my dad was very protective, very protective. And that's what I took out of that relationship. I'm very protective of my family. If you follow me, but one thing that they weren't as kissy, huggy, smoochy, lovey, dovey. They weren't that type of family.
Yeah.
My dad is a retired police officer. My mom worked at Guardian Life. Not to say they didn't express love and show me love. They did. But we are over affectionate with our kids. We kiss our kids at least 13 times, 15 times a day.
Like 30.
Yeah, like we are overly, like before we leave the house, it's my daughter is 8 years old. Every morning before I leave to do the breakfast club, she makes me wake her up so she can give her dad a hug and a kiss before her dad goes to work.
Yeah.
Like
4 o'clock in the morning.
That is unheard of, but that's how we are.
And if he doesn't do it, when he gets home from work, she's livid.
Yeah,
she's problem. Yes.
Give me a hug and a kiss and say goodbye.
Yes, she's mad. But that's, those are some of the things. So for myself, it's the firmness, it's the protectiveness of my family, of my dad. And then it also is what I didn't have was the extra affection. And we give our kids so much affection.
Yeah, so there are takeaways from what you get, and then takeaways also from what you don't get within your own household. For me, my parents were my biggest confidants. They were truly my friends, but we didn't blur the line between respect and friendship. I was able to be friendly and open and whatnot with my parents, but know how to maintain the discipline that they also instilled in me, to a certain degree. My parents really were very open and they poured into me. They would talk to me about anything under the sun and give me the real. They were very, very honest, brutally honest. My father, whom I really admired, I would sit in his den maybe 2, 3 hours at a time, and we would talk about everything. I would grill him about his upbringing and his parents and things that he went through and lessons that he learned. And do you really believe in aliens? And you name it. I mean, we talked about it. And he never like shooed me away. Like, all right, enough, little girl, like the game's about to be on. My mother, she taught me all the tricks of the trade. Anything that I needed to know as a young girl evolving into a woman, she provided me. But it was the open communication. It was the no judgment, the no disappointment. You can come to me with anything and for everything. I will always have your back. If you did something wrong, we'll figure it out first and then we'll talk about it. But for right now, my priority is you and making sure that you're good. So all of those things, creating this comfort within the home, like my parents being my soft place to land, that's the same thing that I want to give to my kids. So I preach those things in our house. No judgment, no disappointment. Don't worry, I just need you to be honest. And because they feel that openness, they're free to tell me whatever's going on in their lives without fear of, being nailed to the cross. So that's what I would say, the open communication.
That's beautiful. I have that with my mother as well. And I think that, especially for girls, that it goes a long way.
Especially being able to trust them.
Yes. Like you said, you can talk about it. They might be upset and there's going to be a discussion about it, but the repercussions won't be as, I guess, harsh. Like that was never a fear of mine.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, Gia, is that in the book, you guys, well, both of you, you talk about a lot of the trials that you had to endure in terms of the way that you navigated certain things in your relationship. And one of which some people have been labeling it as controlling. Envy, you label it as protective. And you have said that it was a bit controlling at times, as far as Gia going out, Gia working, wearing certain clothing and things like that. But I wanted to know, how did you reconcile dealing with that? Like what were those conversations like? Because I know for a lot of women, at least nowadays, I'm not really certain about how it was, couple years ago or a decade ago, how women, navigated that as far as being wives and mothers. But now, women are a lot different now. They're not as willing to compromise when it comes to certain things that their husbands or partners might be uncomfortable with. So what was that like for you?
Okay, so he was controlling, but I wasn't controlled. So we always butt heads. It's not as though he attempted to control me and I was submissive to that. It was always a problem because there was always that intense friction based on the fact that, there was this intense attempt being made to control me. So when you refer to, girls now, there was no difference between girls now and girls then. It was a problem now. It's a problem now. It was a problem then. But what I will say, and I think that girls now, if they're honest, they might say something similar, not all, but maybe some. But when Rashaun was behaving in such a jealous manner and being so controlling or so protective, as he liked to call it, sometimes even like obsessive, things of that nature. The truth is that I was somewhat flattered, as though I felt like his perspective is that I found something so special that I don't ever want to lose it. Mm-hmm. And to me, I process that as he's kind of like a little crazy in love. So maybe I can love him out of that. Maybe I can provide him with the security that he doesn't have in this relationship, and he will evolve out of that. It took longer than I had hoped, but that was how I looked at it. And maybe how I mistakenly, how would I put it? Saw the brighter side of his actions. He doesn't mean to be hurtful. He doesn't mean to put me in a vice or to put a clamp on me. He's just doing this because he loves me so much, or because he wants to protect our relationship, because he doesn't want to lose me. That is not something that I would advise for young girls to take it that way. I wouldn't want a young girl to process it the same way that I processed it, but that is in fact how I processed it. So we write about it in the book so that maybe a young girl or a grown woman who's going through that or experiencing that can see it for what it really is through the mistake of how I took it in.
Got it. And speaking of processing things, Envy, I'm always very impressed by your level of honesty as well, and you admitting that you weren't necessarily always the best representation of yourself when it came to the way that you interacted with Gia as her husband. And I love you guys' like whole family structure. I love what you showcase online. I think it's beautiful. But one of the things that I'm interested in is, now that you've gone through all of this stuff, all of these things, and having conversations and having to grow out of being controlling or being overprotective. You guys have 4 daughters now. And obviously, you have 2 sons as well, but I'm really interested to know, how are you guys teaching, specifically you, Envy, your daughters to look out for the mistakes that you made? What are you teaching them about what love really looks like?
Yeah, see, the best thing about our family is we're 100% real. So we're honest. So my daughter knows the stories. The difference with me and my parents and me and my daughters are we have a closer relationship, meaning I'm in their lives. Not to say that my parents were not in my life, but like I'm in her life. So when she meets a boy and she goes out on her first date or she talks to a boy, we have those conversations early. Things back then, I would never talk to my parents about things like that. We didn't listen to the same music. We didn't have the same similarities. Now, me and my daughters, we have the same similarities. We're listening to the same music. So when my daughter has a problem or a situation, I'm having those conversations, right? So perfect example, my daughter, she was dating this guy. And they were on a boat. It was a boat. They were in Martha's Vineyard.
It had 2 floors, like a double-decker boat.
Double-decker boat. He comes downstairs. My daughter's on the phone. He snatches my daughter's phone and looks through her DMs, right? My daughter said, I don't have nothing to hide. Go ahead, look through it. So then when he finished, my daughter said, let me see your phone. He ran upstairs, came back 10 minutes later and said, okay, here. So I had this, my daughter. I said, you know what that means?
Everything.
I said, you know what that means? No, Dad, what does it mean? It means that he erased everything before he gave you the phone. If he had nothing to hide, he would have gave you the phone right then and there. Mm-hmm. That's something small, but those are the conversations that I have with my daughter. I said, at that point, he would have rather threw his phone in the ocean than give you that phone. And she was like, Dad, you're right. And she's able to make her own breakdowns and her own mental of what she thinks about those situations. And then she said, all right, well, if he can't be honest with me, I don't need to talk to him anymore. But those are the conversations that I can have with my daughter, because I tell her the truth. There's nothing that I keep from my daughter. Even if it's foul and makes her dad look disgusting and horrible, she knows I'm not that same person now. So me telling her those stories is more appreciative, because she's like, damn, my dad's really put me on the game.
It's those honest, true, and actual cautionary tales of something that once was, Mm-hmm. This once was, details of our relationships now that we are willing to share with you, my daughter, to let you know what to look out for, to let you know what my mindset was at the time, to let you know your father's mindset at the time, so that you have a guide, you have a reference point of what to tolerate versus what not to tolerate.
Now, having a book like this, and also, you guys' coinciding podcast, you guys are opening yourselves up to a lot of public opinion, obviously. And with public opinion, there's a lot of, support for your relationship. I'm all for marriage, and I love when married couples are able to sustain the ups and downs of whatever they deal with. But then on social media, you have the trolls who have everything under the sun to say. And I've noticed after a few of the interviews that you guys have done as of late, there's been a lot of social media discussion in regards to what I would have done, what I would not have done. And there was something that caught my eye that it was a question that said, I wonder now with Envy looking back, if he feels like he deserved Gia. What do you have to say in response to that?
No. I look at all the things that I did to her and being controlling and cheating and just who I was as a person. I always felt that I wasn't mature enough for her. I always felt like I didn't deserve her. I didn't feel like I was worthy enough. Am I now? Absolutely. But back then, no, I wasn't on her same mind length. She was years ahead of me. I was a child. I was a boy, as I like to say it. So no, not at all. But that's what I think the best part of the book is we explain who I was and what we went through. And the reason that we wrote the book is so people to get an understanding. We knew that people were going to make their own headlines and there was going to be trolls and some of the situations and topics they were going to be joking on. But
clickbait.
Yeah, we knew that. Like even with the suicide thing, like growing up, I'm gonna say I was taught, but growing up, I always thought that somebody who committed suicide or was thinking of committed suicide was weak and was a sucker and was a selfish. But then when you go through it, you understand it's not that at all. So the fact that I can explain that and talk about it so thoroughly and talk about how I was and how I felt, I know I'm helping people. Not only that, even with the orgasm clip that was running all over the place for the last 2 weeks, although I got a lot of trolls and envy this and that, a joke and the Marlon Wayans and the Rick Ross, which was fine. And I'm gonna tell you why. If I showed you my DMs or if I showed you Gia's DMs of how many women said, I'm glad you spoke about this. I'm gonna have a conversation with my husband tonight. I'm gonna have a conversation with my boyfriend tonight. Or better yet, I sent one to Gia today where a guy was like, hey, let me ask you a question, honestly. Well, first of all, thanks for writing the book. But how did you make your wife orgasm? I want to know how I make my girl orgasm or my wife. Well, how did you start that conversation?
Because I don't think it's happening.
So I don't think it's happening. Yeah. So out of all the people that's joking, that's cool. But the fact that we're able to touch a certain number of people that are able to open up and have those conversations, that's what makes us feel happy. That's what we did it for. That's what we feel like our assignment was.
There was also, I remember there were a lot of headlines about, you guys spoke about it as well, that there was a possibility that you could potentially have joined Real Housewives of New Jersey. And then there was another situation that you guys had with Bravo, and you guys ultimately decided to forego that. I personally am so happy that you guys decided not to do reality TV because I feel like that puts your relationship at not a disadvantage, but just we don't need to see everything. I feel like sometimes with our favorite celebs, that can really taint our perceptions or images of them, regardless of how real it may be. I just don't necessarily always think that that's the great thing. I mean, but if it is done right, I'm sure even now you guys are getting approached about doing specials or docuseries. So what is your stance on that now? And why at the time did you say no or not now?
Well, at the time, we were offered a couple of shows, a couple of projects. At the time, I don't think one, our relationship was where it is now. And two, like we always say, if we do something, we don't need, and we're thankful, and this is not bragging, we don't have to do it for the money. Mm-hmm. We're financially good. We're in a space that we are financially great. So if we do it now, it has to be for a reason.
Right.
So even with the book, we didn't do it for money. We did it because we felt like, with everything that went on with us and how we feel like God came in our life, we felt like it was only right to tell that story and hopefully help some people. So that was the reason why we wrote the book. And same thing with television. I would never cancel out television. It just has to be the right situation. It has to be us being able to show what we want to show. I mean, I can't sit there and say I beat my kids or I curse at my kids or I yell at them or I throw them through a table or flip, because I don't do that. Mm-hmm. So whatever you see on television that if we are going to do, or, we never know, it's going to be something that's going to be honest and truthful. Because that's who we are, you know what I mean? Yeah. So
it has to be authentic.
It has to be authentic.
It can't be scripted. Mm-mm. It can't be created. It has to be a representation of what is actual and authentic.
And if whatever it would be a good representation of who we are as people. So, I mean, we've gotten 1,000,001 offers from real estate shows to car shows to family shows, but it has to be right. You know what I mean? And if it's not, we'll just wait for our time. But we'll see.
Or not.
Yeah. Or not. It's not like, it's not like we're searching for anything, but you just never know.
Where do you guys? Yeah, it has to serve a purpose.
Correct.
Where do you guys feel like the next phase of your relationship is? Where do you guys see yourselves going? I know that this book is a huge deal for you. You're using this, to serve a purpose, to help other couples, whether they're married or dating. You guys are like really using this as not a blueprint, but I guess parables or examples of do's and don'ts, just as a testimony of what can be. What else do you guys plan on doing outside of this to expand on this?
Right now let me just explain my way of thinking. First is just the book, to explain the book and to open things up. There was two reasons why I wanted to do the podcast. One was because we had a story to tell and I thought it could help a lot of people's relationships. The second is, I think, and this is maybe me because she's my wife, but I think Gia is absolutely positively amazing. I think she's brilliant at what she does. I think she's very smart. She's intelligent. And I think the world needed to see that, and the world needed to hear that she just wasn't a piece of eye candy that was sitting on my side, that she really is very bright and very smart, very caring, an amazing mother, an amazing wife. I just feel like the world needed to see that, and hopefully there's a space for her in this world. So when I think of Gia, and even the fact that we're doing all these interviews and people are so impressed the way that she's speaking and talking and how insightful she is, I just feel like there's a future for Gia in communication somewhere. She was a communication major, and I just feel like it's an opportunity for her. I would love to see her doing something. Like I always joke with her, I did the first 40 years. You got to do the next 40. You know what I mean? I just feel like this
you can sit back and be Stedman now, right?
I want to sit back and be Stedman. I will raise the babies. I will breastfeed the baby. I have a baby here on the breastfeed. Like, look at mama. I don't care. But I just feel like she's great. And the fact that she sacrificed a lot of what she wanted to do and who she wanted to be to raise our family and to take care of our house and to take care of our investments. And, she's been the CEO of our house in my life for the last 21 years. So, now that she's getting the proper respect that I feel like the world should see, and people are starting to see that side of her, I love it. Like I'm sitting there like I'm a proud dad right now, like, oh, look at my little baby, you know what I mean? So I love it. So to answer your question, I really see Gia doing something outside of this. I don't know what it is, whatever God is calling. I just see something really, really big for her.
And that was actually my final question, because I do remember in one podcast episode, I don't know if a fan asked or if you, Envy, if you asked Gia, did she regret giving up her career in order to focus on you guys' family and home? And at the time you said no, because of the way that you are so involved in your children's lives. So do you feel like validated in this moment now that you have this opportunity and everyone is so receptive to you, and you did major in communications and you're using your platform for the greater good? And I do agree with Envy that there was a missing space within this industry for someone like you. So how do you feel now that things have come, I guess, full circle?
To be honest with you, for me, it's just one day at a time. I'm not looking towards a goal. It's just putting one foot in front of the other, and whatever happens organically, if anything at all happens, then that's what it will be, organically. I'm not pushing for anything. This book wasn't a stepping stool to achieve another goal. We wrote this book with very specific intention and purpose. So I want this book to live and thrive and do what it was supposed to do, which is help people become centered with self, become centered in their relationships if they choose to be in one. That's what I'm thinking right now. If an opportunity presents itself, or if it turns into something, then, we talk about that when it happens, but I don't have any particular aspirations or anything like that. I'm a mom, and my children, my family, my husband, my home come first. The podcast that you're referring to, Rashaun asked if I regretted, not following certain ambitions. No, that was my choice. Of course, like for me, I never saw myself becoming a housewife or a domestic engineer, as some people like to affectionately refer to themselves. I never saw that for myself. I always saw myself getting married and having children and things of that nature, but all while at the same time having a career. But the way that our life unfolded, that didn't happen. And I wound up staying home with my children, raising wonderful children, having more than we had ever expected that we would ever want. And, you know, making decisions as years pass, like, oh, we want another one, we want another one, we want another one. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. That is my greatest gift. That was inadvertently my greatest ambition. And it's what I'm best at. I pride myself greatly on being a mother. So no, there are no regrets there. So I just want to make conscious, good decisions day by day. And whatever those conscious decisions turn into, I'll let them organically turn into.